Yeah, I think it was a difficult surface. I think Mumbai read the conditions exceptionally well, and they, after probably the first few overs, they really relied on that slow ball. And I think the slow ball is obviously effective, but it's mainly effective because of their execution, and there's some supreme exponents of it, and Bumrah and Trent Boult and even Hardik Pandya. So I think the way that they bowled, particularly through those middle stages, really stifled us. I think we were 66 for 3 through those 10 overs, and in these sort of conditions you probably need more than that. I think we finished pretty well, but just that middle stage, the way that they bowled didn't allow us to score, and I thought we tried to counter it pretty well. I think we worked out how difficult it was trying to get through it, but credit to them, the way that they bowled. I think it's both. I think the feedback from the batsman was that it almost felt, the wicket felt dead, and so anytime the slow ball came, it was difficult to, I suppose, get any power on it, and therefore there were a lot of singles. But I also think you look at the way that Boult bowled to that small boundary. He defended it with superb Yorkers, so I think they're really clever in their planning, and we just weren't able to get away the bad balls that they did bowl, which were few and far between.
Mumbai Indians used 4 overs and spin, and the medium pacers bowled the rest of the 16 overs. The slower ones from the medium pacers or the spinners who were more difficult to face?
Well, I think, Jack's spell was fantastic. Particularly came up against our 3 left-handers who are all very good players of spin, but he was able to extract something out of the wicket, and all those batsmen said it was hard to get down to him, and when he did drop short, it sort of sat in the wicket and made it difficult to hit. So I think he found a good length. I think his style and his release in terms of a bit more of a square seam on this surface made it hard. In general, it was a difficult batting surface, and 180 maybe would have been a par score and something that could have challenged Mumbai, but I think the way that they navigated the middle period, particularly their 6-hitting prowess, took the game away from us.
Hi Dan, want to get your attention to the first few overs of SRH's innings. You spoke about how the lengths work, but what was the feedback from especially Abhishek and Head as to what made it difficult, and was it also a case of SRH, like them not having enough confidence in the middle order, which is why they didn't go too hard at the start, or what was it about?
No, it was definitely the surface. Like I just said then, they both said that it felt like it was almost dead when it hit a good length, and so the value for shots wasn't quite there. We probably got away with a lot as well in that power play. We were a little bit lucky, so I think we understood how difficult it was. So to come away from that power play, I think 46 for none, was something that we were pretty happy with, and we thought that maybe spin would be a little bit easier, but it wasn't the case. And like I've said a couple of times, I think the way that Mumbai bowled was perfect for that surface.
Coach, towards the end of the innings, you did get some momentum in terms of getting 57 odd runs in the last 5 overs. It did add a substantial amount of runs to the total. But given how the game panned and given how the wicket was behaving, was it not, what was the logic or what was the rationale behind not introducing spin in the power play, not trying out that option when the pacers were not able to get the big breakthroughs?
I think the Pacers created those chances. I think if we'd held on to that one off Jacks at the back end of the power play off Shami, it would have been 2 down, and that's a pretty effective power play to get those 2 big wickets. Probably Zeeshan in particular, as we utilise him outside the power play, it's probably not his natural game. He hasn't played a lot of T20 cricket, so we probably protect him from that role a little bit. And like I said, if we take our chances, then we're probably content with how the power play went.
Coach, half prestige for Sunrisers, and you once remain the only team to not have an away victory. What would you put it down?
Probably haven't quite adapted on surfaces that not foreign to us. Everyone's played in India for a long period of time, so just haven't been able to deal with those in certain situations. I think if we'd been able to bowl first, then I think you get a feel for the surface and get a bit more understanding. But when you bat first on a tricky surface, It is difficult, and like I said, we're pretty content after the power play, and we're content at the end of it, but we needed 20, 30 more runs and a good start, and I think that's probably been the case in all the away games so far.
That time you talked about how difficult the pitch was. Would you say Jasprit, the 1 for 21 or 4 and then rolled 1 for 29, that made a big difference? Especially the 2 overs of Jasprit in the power play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like I've said a couple of times, I think they surmise conditions well. We know that Bumrah and Bolt are world-class bowlers, but the execution of the slow ball and then the execution of the Yorker from Bolt were critical, and I suppose losing Klaasen in that penultimate over, if he'd been able to get through that and take a few off Bumrah and then set again, those are all the little things that you hope for in these relatively low-scoring games, and that wasn't for us tonight.
Do you feel like teams are trying to do this season when they're trying to play on slightly slower surfaces against you, sort of knowing what you're about as a side?
I feel like no one really has control over their surface, so there's a little bit of luck involved in terms of coming against wickets that don't suit us. But I think there has to be more to it from our side, that we have to adapt. We know that conditions like this exist in Chennai, sometimes Ahmedabad, so we're not expecting to go around the country and come up on belters. So it's the ball's in our court to realise that, and I think we did it relatively well today. It was just incredibly tough through those middle stages, and I've credited Mumbai how well they bowled throughout that innings, and that really was the difference today.
Played a part in the field, but usually sort of had paid the impacts up throughout the tournament. Has been his case about managing his workload with the international schedule, or just a tactical thing?
Andrew McDonald said he had to field, so I made him field. They were worried about him last year when he didn't field, so he's fielding at the moment.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, really happy. I knew I was going to play a role with the ball. They've got 3 left-handers in the top order, and I think we knew the wicket was going to have a little bit of assistance, so I was prepared for that. Obviously, I'm not expecting to take more wickets than some of the quality bowlers we have, but I'm pretty happy with it.
After the first innings, you said that you were aware yesterday itself that you will be bowling. So was it a well-planned strategy to choke the Hyderabad batsman? Kind of you utilize the home advantage that is entitled for you?
Yeah, we spoke about using the whole wicket. Both the batsmen like using the feet and hitting straight down the ground, so I was always prepared to use the wide line. Doesn't matter if I bowl the odd wide, happy to try and restrict them in that way. And just bowl good length. So I knew there was going to be a bit of spin assistance, so as long as I wasn't floating the ball up there and bowling aggressively, and bowling hard spin, using the wicket, that's what I was trying to do, looking to get them out. Obviously, I'll spinner to 2 left-handers. I'm always looking to take wickets and being aggressive, and they're always going to come after me as well, obviously being the 6th bowler as such. So I knew it was game on, and gladfully I came out on the right side today.
Congratulations. What's your reading on the pitch? This didn't look like a typical Wankhede wicket. How do you define this as a draft?
Yeah, it was not what we've seen in the past here, but it was definitely still a good wicket. We felt when we were batting, when there was pace on the ball, we felt we could play our shots freely, as long as we weren't trying to overhit the ball. I think you had to play smart, take the right options, which benefited us obviously batting second. I think when we bowled, we adapted quite quickly, which is what good teams do. So we're pleased with how we did that today, and we bowled accordingly. So the only thing we probably could have done in the death there is probably used the wicket a little bit more in those last 3 overs. But overall, we put in a good bowling performance and batting as well.
After Mumbai Indians spot you in the auction last year, the team's owner Akash Amani went to the RCB owners and he had them. What sort of confidence does it give you as a player when you sort of welcome to this panel? And how different is it? How's the IPL experience been so far? First with RCB and now with the MI.
Yeah, ever since I was bought by MI in the auction, there's been have been a lot of conversations just around being myself, giving myself confidence. We've obviously got such a star-studded lineup, and there's such amazing people to learn from and train with. So I was really happy to be playing for MI. And since then, it's been about gaining confidence, getting used to knowing everyone, gelling as a team, which has it is tricky at times when you change. It's all the backroom staff, everyone around the team. It does take a while to set in and to gel, but we've done that well, and I feel really comfortable here, and I'm really enjoying my time.
Can you talk about your performance with the bat, considering it's been a relatively quiet season so far?
Yeah, I would have loved to have contributed more in the first 6 games, first 5 games I've played. But the message has always been the same from the team. Heinrich said it in the post-match interview there. He wants me to go and express myself, put pressure on the opposition, and they've been very vocal at training, and the message couldn't have been any clearer. I know why I'm here, I know what I can do, and it's about showing that on the pitch to everyone. And I was happy with how I started today, and took the initiative to the bowlers, but at the same time made some good decisions on a wicket that had some assistance. I would have loved to have finished it off, but we won.
Yeah, I don't know if you can answer this. What's the status of Karan Sharma in the top field? What is it like?
Yeah, I think he's got a slight finger webbing issue. I'll be honest, I haven't seen him, but hopefully it's not too bad and he can bounce back quickly.
Well, could I just ask about mindset with bowling? You were talking about trying to spin the ball hard and trying to attack it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that was your role with the opponent today, and those left-handers at the top.
Yeah, I think if you bowl tentatively to people like that, it's only going to end one way. So that was the message, and I thought originally I was going to bowl into the power play. I didn't bowl then, so I knew I had a bit more protection. So I knew I could bowl with confidence and use my skills. I'm a tall bowler. I get good turn and bounce. So that was what I was trying to do. Sometimes I feel like I can be too defensive instead of using what I'm good at, and I was happy with how I did that today.
It's nice to get one back on Trevor's head after T20 World Cup.
Yeah, we've had a few good battles. Obviously, that World Cup one where I didn't do well, and then a few in the IPL as well. So that's the game. Unfortunately, that day didn't go my way, but that's in the past now, and we have a good chuckle about it and enjoying bowling to him again next week.
Hi Will, you said that you had an idea that you might bowl today. Yesterday you might had an idea that you bowl today. Any intel on what discussions went about when you as a team thought about using this pitch for an SRH side that's way too explosive, and also about the lengths or the pace that you had to target, especially to head Abhishek and Ishan Kishan?
Yeah, we know Sunrisers are incredibly explosive. When they're on a good wicket, they're very tricky to bowl to. We saw how good they were last week, obviously. And for me, I think it's very easy to focus on the batters when you're a bowler. You've got to remember that you have your skill as well, and you're there to get them out. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. Some days it will work, some days it won't. And there's always that in the game. But you have to, as the bowler, you have the opportunity to execute your skill first. We play them again next week, so I'm not going to go through everything. But we did have our field plans, and we understood what the wicket was going to behave like. So we did plan well, and I think that contributed today.
We're just trying to develop a little more understanding on how the wicket behaved in the first innings and the second innings, because in the first half of the plan, the first 6 came in the 18th over of the innings, and then when Mumbai came out to bat, it looked like it was a different wicket in terms of how the batters were able to execute their shots, get those boundaries and sixes frequently than what happened in the first innings.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, I don't think it changed much. There was spin in both innings. There was hold when people bowled slow balls into the wicket. There wasn't much dew tonight either, so I don't think there was massive changes in conditions as such. I think we executed well with the ball, and I think we understood then what we had to do with the bat. We also got off to a very proactive start with the bat. Rohit played really well tonight, and that made it a lot easier for myself to come in at 3 and not have to over attack from ball 1. So I think we put in a really good collective performance tonight.
Well, last year you scored that 100 for RCB. When will we get to see such kind of amount? Because from 50 to 100 you just raced away before you don't want to lift sit and look what's happening next?
I'd love to know when that's going to happen as well. But unfortunately, that is days like that don't come around often. But all you can do is put yourself in the position and work hard. And I'd love to do that every game, but life isn't that easy, and the cricket's not that easy. I made a good impact on the game today, and hopefully when we play here against Chennai next, I'll be able to do the same.
What all need to come together to get that kind of...
Well, for that one specifically, you need a lot of things to come together. As I had a lot of luck early on, and then somehow got into a rhythm. That's, like I say, that won't happen very, very many times in my career. I think. I don't know what else to say to that. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks.